And so I want to tell you in a bit more detail a couple of stories around some crisis moments and what some people did, what some companies did when they faced a crisis. So the first one is about a really famous promotion that went wrong, which I think has some parallels to what we do in the radio of lots of promotions, and sometimes they don't go as well as we think. And this one's fairly well known, but I want to examine the decision-making elements of the free flights fiasco, which is a case study from Hoover in the UK. For those that don't know, what happened in the situation, right? So they're doing a promotion of buy a vacuum cleaner for a minimum of £100, receive 2 free flights to the US worth £200. Like, alarm bells should be going off at this point, right? And basically, the promotion was built on 3 assumptions. Number one, the average value of a vacuum cleaner sold would be about £300, which is what it had been historically, average value. The redemption rate of the promotion would be about 50%, because we know that not everyone redeems their offer. And thirdly, that people, when they got the free flights and they were booking them in, that Hoover could upsell them accommodation and rental cars and make some money there, right? So 3 assumptions. All of them turned out to be wrong, because people would just go in and buy the Hoover, the vacuum cleaner, to get the free flights. So they would buy the minimum cost model of £100. Redemption rate was in the high 90%, and very few of them were interested in actually buying the extra services, right? So Hoover started losing a lot of money. They had to keep honouring it, and their production went into overdrive, but they were losing money, right? And a couple of interesting things happened in terms of decision-making from the leadership of that company at this point. They were actually infiltrated their call center, where they were actually people were phoning up to redeem their flights, was infiltrated by a BBC documentary producer who had a spy camera. And he found that when people were trying to redeem their flights, management said to their call center staff, you've got to make it hard for people to redeem. You've got to say their dates they want aren't available. You've got to not phone them back. And you've got to do other things which are going to reduce our redemption rate, right? And that got filmed by the BBC, broadcast in prime time as a scandal kind of thing, right? What do you think happened? More people went out to buy Hoovers because they hadn't heard of the promotion. And even though it was hard to get them, they were like, what a brilliant offer. So it kept spiraling out of control, right? And ultimately, what ended up happening is pretty interesting. Is this guy called David Davies, who's a farmer in Lancashire. He was so irate about this that when his vacuum cleaner was to be delivered to his house, he kidnapped the delivery driver and the van and refused to give it back until he got his free flights. And that actually took him several years, and he set up a advocacy group and sued Hoover, and lots of the senior executives ended up losing their jobs, and they had to sell the company for a fraction of its original cost, right? So this is how not to make decisions in a crisis, because what's really happening there is, one, they've made a load of assumptions that have turned out to be wrong and haven't tested them before the promotion went live. 2 is that we all have corporate values, but they didn't use them when they were making those big decisions. They were making short-term tactical decisions. How do we get out of the latest episode? So those are the kind of 3 problems I see. And so when we see problems in radio land, for example, the very famous nurse prank call, what you're seeing is a situation that goes on over a long period of time, from the acute stage where the nurse died through to advertiser boycotts and ultimately a number of inquests. And what you're seeing is, I'm advising companies, I didn't get involved in that at all, but I'm advising them, use your values and think long term, because that's how you can navigate this complex series of ongoing crises, if you like.